Welcome to Leadership Trademarked, the podcast where we explore what it truly means to lead in today's uncertain world. Built on decades of experience across industries, we go beyond theory to examine the real tools, challenges, and outcomes that define leadership today. In Season 1, we laid the foundation, bringing together voices from across sectors to uncover the core principles of effective leadership. Now in Season 2, we turn our attention to the existential challenges organizations face: uncertainty, rapid technology changes, and shifting generational expectations. We kick off the season with founding members Leslie Riley and Rosalind Kingsmill, sharing over 80 years of senior leadership experience, and myself, Sylvia Fraser, a leader driving inclusion and innovation in municipal government and public service. Supporting us behind the scenes is Finley Gain, whose tech expertise ensures our conversations reach you smoothly and professionally. So join us as we unpack real-world leadership with insight, purpose, and actionable strategies, helping you define and refine your own leadership trademark.
Hello, everybody, and in particular, welcome Gina Huston to this Season 2 and her amazing approach to, well, I'm going to say life, but it's also to individuals and it's also to groups of people. So we're lining up for an exciting conversation tonight, folks. Gina, thank you for coming. Hello, Finley. I'm so glad you're here. We'd be skunked without you. And Leslie, my longtime colleague and the most amazing strategist I've ever known. Leslie, over to you.
Thank you for that introduction, Roz. Welcome to Gina. We're really happy to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for all that you do, Finn. And with that, we're talking tonight about something called perceptual positions. This is important because as leaders in our community, in our workplaces, and within our families, we have a lot of roles that we fill. We try to manage, we try to navigate through conflict. We try to navigate through competing goals and competing priorities. And one of the things that's important to do as we work our way through these things is that we have one perspective. The person across the table from us has a different perspective, and then there is a perspective within the whole unit. So what we mean by this is it's kind of a mine, a yours, and an ours. So you might be doing this as a boss or a follower or the company vision. So if you're the boss, the you person would be the employee or the staff member, and the company vision would be the ours. Within a family, as a parent, you have the other perspective of the child and then the family values. Within a school setting, there would be the teacher, the student perspective, and the school mission. And so within perceptual positions, if we ask certain questions of ourselves and others, we can start to get a perspective on how our perspective differs from your perspective and fits in within the larger vision. So with that as an introduction, I'm going to turn the questioning over to Roz, and we're going to have a conversation with Gina about perceptual positions.
Thanks, Les. So, Gina, are you with us?
Thanks, Roz. Yes, I am with you, and I'm thrilled to be here and an honor to be invited as a guest. So thank you so much.
Well, it's our pleasure indeed. 5 questions that I want to ask you.
Okay.
And I put them in an order, or we put them in an order that would seem to follow along with your answer, setting us up for the second one. But as we begin this, if the question I ask doesn't fit right away, please let me know that and I can do something in a different order. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. So, first of all, and you can tell me this, you can answer this sort of like a story if you want to. Can you describe your approach or your process or your method to identify and work with people who all have different concepts, ideals, education, background, beliefs? And the challenge as a leader, as you know, is to try to get everybody on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, tell me how you look at that and say, okay, here's how I'll do it. What's your process?
Okay. Well, I think my process is the same but different to every situation. I'm the kind of person I like to be able to understand what other people are thinking. So the best way for me to do that is I observe people, I listen, I take note, and each approach is differently. So to get everybody on the same page, number one, I think you have to develop a rapport with everyone in one way or another. You know what I mean? And just listen to what they have to say and acknowledge what they're saying and address what they're saying and show that you are engaged in conversation with them.
Okay, so you used one of my favorite words, which is rapport. I've learned over the years that a lot of people don't know what that means. So pretend I'm 8 years old and unpack it to me. If you're going to say to me, I want to develop rapport with you, or I want you to develop rapport with me, and I don't understand that, how do you do that, Gina?
Yeah, you just start a conversation. Start a conversation and talk about yourself. Ask the questions. I find it very helpful. Um, like I started my career in the airlines, and I had a lot of customer service training, and I find that if you listen to people and remember their dog's name, remember their children's name, bring something personal to the conversation, that allows people to, in my opinion, to I don't know if trust is the word, but to open up to me. I have a lot of relationships where people tell me maybe things they shouldn't tell me, but I think that's because they trust me and I've developed a rapport and a trust with them.
So when you have that awareness, Gina, and you realize that you're being told quite openly and quite freely something that is really important to them or personal to them, how do you handle that?
Well, I acknowledge what they're trying, what they're saying to me, and I'll ask certain questions like, give me an example of like the 8-year-old.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would not I would talk to them on their level. I wouldn't try to outsmart them. I would listen to them. I would try to communicate with them where they can understand me and I acknowledge that I understand them.
Okay. So you're not trumping them. That might have been a bad way to say that. But you're not doing the top down, I'm bigger, brighter, smarter, you need to know kind of lecturing kind of conversation.
Correct. Myself, I try and tend not to ever do that. I don't think that that's for myself. I don't think that approach works for me because I'm not bigger, brighter, smarter than anybody. I'm just me, right? And you know, this is what it is.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
shoot from the hip. Pardon the pun, right now, but I just kind
Right.
of shoot from the hip, kind of gal, and tell it like it is. I don't. I don't try to trick people or tell them things that they just want to hear if that's not what I intend to say.
Right. Okay. Okay. That's a 12 out of 10 in my book. As an executive coach, I will say I've spent thousands of hours attempting and generally successful to try to bring people through using rapport to the idea that they shouldn't be so authoritative or bossy or interrupting or sarcastic. So, and I will say, Gina, in the years I've known you, I've never had to have that conversation with you. Okay.
Well, I learned from the best.
Well,
I learned from the
it
best.
takes one to know one. You know, I'm a full believer that birds of a feather hang out together. And I've also observed, to your point about paying attention and seeing what's happening, that people are immediately attracted towards people who are like them. And so
Agreed.
in a large crowd that may be getting together for a meeting or a party or a whatever, and they probably don't know each other, I spend a lot of time kind of like an eagle flying over it and seeing who is just naturally gravitating toward each other. And it's quite interesting. I don't even really think they know what they're doing. It's an intuitive, it's a sensuous, it's internal, it's a sensory way of feeling out who's who in the zoo.
I think it's a gift myself. Like I know when to say, "Oh, good morning, Mr. Smith," or "Hey, Bob, what's happening?" Like I'm pretty intuitive, and I pride myself on that. You know, when it comes to people, like some people I haven't been right on the money, but generally speaking, I find that's one of my strengths is be able to. I wouldn't say read people; it's just relate to people where they're going to in turn relate to me the same way that I am to them. Do you understand?
Okay, so over the years of your career, which is stellar, and I know you've made a difference, how has using that approach changed the way, or did it change the way in some way about how you work with teams?
That's a good question. I think it's the same kind of approach with teams. It's very important that the teams mesh. So it's not like, for a lack of a better phrase, not read the room, but like I said, I'll sit and listen and observe first, and I'll try to. I'm the kind of person that tries to get everybody together. So if there's a problem, if there's a solution that needs to be made, like I'll engage everybody and listen to each one's point of view, and then try to pull it together to do a synopsis of what it is that we're trying to do, and make sure everybody has an understanding, a clear understanding, and we all need to be on the same page. Sometimes we're not on the same page, but that's the goal.
So what I'm hearing is that your first line of approach to this is to invite whoever or whatever they are or their beliefs are into conversation with a larger group, so that as you work with the team, everybody starts to know who everybody is because they got asked to say, "How great are you?" or whatever. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Has there been a time when, for whatever reason, you didn't have time, or it was going too fast, or you were surprised that you couldn't take that approach?
Let me just think on that. I'm sure there has been. I guess I'm going to relay it back to a team. I'm on the organizing team of the Civic Gala, which is an event that the City of Toronto holds on an annual basis, and I've been part of the committee from the get-go. And last year it was totally different. There were new players in the game, and new rules and regulations. So trying to get everybody on the same page where the venue's going to be, when it's going to be held, what we're going to do, what the theme is, what the prizes are. That was a little bit of a struggle. But we all managed to get it because these were people that I had never met before. And I had to get their buy-in to the way that the existing team performed and get their buy-in. It seemed to work out swimmingly. Like it was a huge,
Right.
huge, huge success.
Right. So I know you've managed many projects.
Mm-hmm.
For different reasons at different times over a long time. So I'm assuming that your teams change.
Yes.
So as you take on a new project, how aware are you of the importance of engaging each idea or argument or bad mood or fight or whatever that's going on?
I think it's extremely important to understand that with the new team. Like I'm on a new team. Well, actually, I started a new team just before my surgery, so I'm just getting to know them. And my approach is it's fairly new. My team started, I think, a week before I went off for my surgery, so I didn't get to know my new manager so well. So in the interim, I've just called him to let him know what my progress is and what my anticipated return date is. I'm doing a big project right now, and I missed a very important meeting because I was off, but I still wanted to be engaged. So I, called my colleague and called my new manager to see how the vision session went and understand what was said and who the players were and what the outcomes were and what the takeaways were. And I think that's very important because I'm still developing a relationship with him, my new boss, as I'm not even there.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is that in spite of the fact that you know how to do this with your eyes shut, well, you do, Gina, but when it's a new boss or a new project or you're not able to make a meeting, what I'm interpreting you're saying is that you go right back to the beginning and start with the observing and paying attention and getting input.
Absolutely. I ask a lot of questions too, right? I ask a lot of questions. I ask questions about, what do you think how the project's going? I ask personal questions. Like I just found out that my new manager got a new dog on the weekend. Now, how that came up in conversation, it was just natural. I don't know how that happened, but now I'll remember that he's got a new dog on the weekend and how's, Dexter doing.
You do know, so you know the dog's name.
Yes.
Okay.
I asked the dog's name.
So it sounds to me that, like, at the same time, you can be seeing the big scope or the picture or the goal, but you can also quickly get down into the weeds of details like Dexter.
Yes, and getting into the weeds helps you see, or helps me see the big goal. That's how I see the big goal, is by getting into the weeds and asking these questions and developing these relationships and rapports and conversations with.
So when you do that,
Mm-hmm.
for all the reasons you've told in the way you do it, what does that do for you as the leader?
It makes me feel myself personally more confident and makes me have a better understanding of the vision and the direction of where we want to go as a team. And that's very important to me that I understand that. Like I need to understand
Right.
things
Yeah.
clearly before I can be successful. So whatever
Right.
I have to do to get there, I'll do.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is that you already know that the perspectives of others is going to be as important as your goal or the boss's objective or the company's vision. But in order to get to the desired outcome, you need to have the other peer people's perspectives. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So can you think of an example or a time when you blew it or you couldn't get it or something happened or you had to kind of like turn off the car and have a drink and then start it again?
Not in my current position, but I can in I worked for GE Security, and I left for the wrong reasons. I was headhunted away. Long story short, I was with this mom and pop company, and my task was to, of course, gain new business and get new agreements and contracts in
Yeah.
place. And I had gone to one establishment in southern Ontario that it was a big company too. They were totally dissatisfied with the service and the response of this company that I just came on board with and was representing. And this individual was quite rude and swearing at me and telling uh, how terrible service we were and everything. And I was just there to assure him that, I'm sorry this happened. I'm going to fix it for you. But the biggest point that I got from there is I don't believe that my managers were aware of this situation. So what I did entail was go right back to my manager and say, like, I wasn't upset that the man yelled at me and swore at me. I have, big shoulders, I can take it. But I wanted them to know that this is the feeling of more than one person, and I think that, it should be addressed. So I made them, the owner and the manager, aware of the situation.
So you're a bit of a detective then.
Yes.
Okay.
So I've been really interested listening to you and Roz talk about using these different perspectives and in attaining a larger goal. And it brought me to mind of when you have somebody on your team, going back to the sort of the team part of it, when you have somebody in your team that is reluctant to come forward or to fully participate, how do you handle a situation like that?
I do try to get them to engage and bring out their reluctance or understand the reluctance. And Leslie, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I understand their perspective, and some people, I have gotten to come to the other side, so to speak, or understand what the goal was, even if there was reluctance. And I think, again, it's just by communicating. Like, I don't know if I'm communicating properly right now, but I think that's one of my areas of expertise. I keep it on a real level. Like, I don't try to pretend to be something that I'm not. I don't try to be smarter than I am. Like, there's people with MBAs and PhDs and everything else, and I think that's all fine and dandy, but I can do the same job when I have my PhD in life. And I'll tell you, I do have that. So I think that all comes into play just as much as education. But I just try, like, again, communicate with them, try to understand, try to get them to see my point of view or our point of view, and do that. And most times I would say it works, but sometimes it doesn't. And then when it doesn't work, there's not much more that, like, I feel like I've given it my all, and there's not much more that I can do. But I do give it 100%.
Yeah, it sounds like really leaving the door open to communication and then really active listening when somebody does start to share their perspective or what's going on.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Leslie, thank you for that, because, of course, it triggered something for me. Gina, today, in the mess of the world we're in, everybody is quite uncertain.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of fear. Now, generally speaking, when people are afraid, they don't talk about what they're scared about. Mm-hmm. They don't express the emotions. But as I know you and as I hear you, I think the icing on the cake for you in building your rapport and getting these relationships and teams working is that you apply more than cognitive intelligence. You apply an extraordinary amount of emotional intelligence, and you do it from a point of genuine sincerity.
That's nice. Yeah, I think so. I think I'm a sincere person. I'm an honest engine. I'm not gonna feed you baloney because that's what you want to hear. I'm not going to do that. I think that I'm extremely genuine, and maybe to a fault sometimes. I trust everybody until they give me a reason not to trust them. I believe in people. I am for the underdog. I just try to engage them. I just, everybody's got a story, and you can't judge people by the way they think, the way they look, what they do for a living. Everybody's got a story, so I just try to have an open mind, and treat everybody the same way, but generally, like, this is the way I am.
Yeah. Okay, last and final question for me. Hardest question, Gina, but I think we're all doing very well here. What would be one small step that a leader could take tomorrow to apply that kind of an approach to their own perspective, the other perspective, and the organization perspective? One small step.
I think this one of the most important small steps is to listen to what people are saying and acknowledge and understand and confirm with them that you understand. I think it's all about listening and being approachable. A leader needs to be approachable and to open to different opinions and take all that in and go from there. I think that's it. Listening is very important.
So I agree with you, by the way, but it sounds to me like what you're saying is that people do have the capacity to engage. And for whatever reason, the big step to get them to do that is to have the leader actually model or demonstrate that they also have the capacity to engage.
Exactly. Because
You're amazing.
I've had some leaders that don't engage and aren't approachable and make the workplace not unbearable, but not as engaging as it should be. But I think if you lead by example, and I've had, a great leader, and she's no longer with our company anymore, but she was a great leader and she has that same approach. She's very open, understanding, approachable, non-judgmental, and understands people. And I think that's part and parcel of being successful.
So I like what you said, and it reminds me of a big project I had working for a very large insurance company. And the goal or the job I had was to help them restructure their entire technical team, computers and whatever. So I was sent to speak to Jason, and so I showed up and hi, and how are you? And what do you want? And, we talked for maybe 20 minutes. And finally I said, so Jason, what is the really big issue that you have with this change? Well, he said, I have no idea what my people do. Now, I had built enough rapport with him that he could admit that to me, because I can tell you the president of this company didn't believe that of him. So I said, well, Jason, why don't you ask them? Oh, he said, I don't know how to do that. But it was so much connection that I had with him that he essentially gave me permission to design it. And we knocked the ball out of the park.
Yeah.
So then, I could say at the beginning, when I first met him, and he said, I don't know what my people do, that a little part of me said, you jerk. But then as we talked, and we did, and he opened up, I thought, you're a great guy. You're just an introvert. I can help you.
Yeah.
And it really changed him remarkably. So one of the things that I feel very strongly about is that not only do people need to feel that their leader is trustworthy, but the leader also needs to know that the people need to know that they're trustworthy.
I agree.
And that takes some effort. That takes some energy. And in my experience, and Leslie, you and I have had so many of these I can't count, that was always the hardest work. Fabulous, Gina. As we close this off, we got a couple of minutes. Is there anything that you want to ask or anything you want to say? Or Finn, do you want to take a run at her? Leslie, do you have anything? Over to you guys.
Sure. I just want to thank Gina for joining us for this podcast. We've been talking about perceptual positions and discussing how we can learn to better put ourselves in a position of looking at issues and roadblocks from the point of view of different perspectives. And it's really important to build a rapport with people on your team, within your community, in your family, by focusing on these conversations and listening with intent to hear what's being said. And in the end, all of this is we have to practice what we preach. So we lead through example.
Agreed.
And thank you, Gina, for helping us get through to this really helpful topic. And I think it's a tool that a lot of our listeners will be able to use to help them navigate through the uncertainty and the priorities that they have to set going forward.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And in my opinion, I think you just have to keep it real and be yourself. Like, don't pretend to be somebody that you're not, right? And just be genuine, be yourself. I think if you do that and people trust you, then people are going to agree with you or understand what you're trying to say. And that's, for me, that's what works. Is keeping it real. If that makes sense to you.
Makes perfect sense.
Finley, you get the last word with her.
My last question, the final question, keeping it real, very important. Beyond leading by example, what other ways can you help members of your team keep it real?
That's a good question. I could make myself available to my other team members, which people have done to me. Say I'm going into a new role. Is just be approachable and offer your assistance wherever needed. If there's anything that I can do to make this transition more comfortable, more easy, better understanding, just make yourself available and let your teammates know that. And I think that in my positions, my teammates know that. Like, I'm willing to go the extra mile. If they're looking for something, I'm volunteering, I'm putting my hand up. I just think you have to make yourself available and approachable.
Thank you, Gina.
You're welcome.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Gina Huston, for joining us on today's podcast, where we discussed the power of perspective when leading teams. Tune in next time for more conversations on leadership. Thanks for listening.